But due process. Seriously, why is this so hard for these liberals to understand the most basic things about our Constitution here in the United States? If you're in the country illegally, you don't get any due process. End of story.
Reading from constitution.congress.gov, the 14th Amendment, Section 1, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. The explanation from constitution.congress.gov. The 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause provides that no state may deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The Supreme Court has applied this clause in two main contexts. First, the court has constructed the clause to provide protections that are similar to those of the Fifth Amendment's Due Process Clause, except that while the Fifth Amendment applies to federal government actions, the 14th Amendment binds the states. The 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause guarantees procedural due process, meaning that government actors must follow certain procedures before they deprive a person of a protected life, liberty, or property interest. The court has also construed the clause to protect substantive due process, holding that there are certain fundamental rights that the government may not infringe even if it provides procedural protections. The 14th Amendment prohibits states from depriving any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The Supreme Court has held that this protection extends to all natural persons, i.e. human beings, regardless of race, color, or citizenship. The court has also considered multiple cases about whether the word person includes artificial persons, meaning entities such as corporations. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled that a corporation may not be deprived of its property without due process of the law. By contrast, in multiple cases involving liberty interest, the court has held that the 14th Amendment protects the liberty of natural, not artificial persons. Now let's jump over to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18 of the United States Constitution. Again, you can read this at constitution.congress.gov. The Congress shall have power to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. In 1903, the court, in the Japanese immigrant case, reviewed the legality of deporting an alien who had lawfully entered the United States, clarifying that, quote, an alien who has entered the country and has become subject in all respects to its jurisdiction and a part of its population could not be deported without, quote, an opportunity to be heard upon the questions involving his right to be and remain in the United States. In the decades that followed, the Supreme Court maintained the notion that once an alien lawfully enters and resides in this country, he becomes invested with the rights guaranteed by the Constitution to all people within our borders. Now, before you say, Angela, that says all aliens lawfully entering the country, let me continue. Eventually, the Supreme Court extended these constitutional protections to all aliens within the United States, including those who entered unlawfully. The Supreme Court declared, and I quote, aliens who have once passed through our gates, even illegally, may be expelled only after proceedings conforming to traditional standards of fairness encompassed in due process of law. The court reasoned that aliens present in the United States, regardless of their legal status, are recognized as persons guaranteed due process of law by the 5th and 14th Amendments. Thus, the court determined even one whose presence in this country is unlawful, involuntary, or transitory is entitled to that constitutional protection. Accordingly, notwithstanding Congress's indisputably broad power to regulate immigration, fundamental due process requirements notably constrained that power with respect to aliens within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. So I hope that cleared that up a little bit for you, Tyson.